And I will start with this report from RIA Novosti that Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 81 Ukrainian drones overnight. 19 drones were intercepted over the Bryansk region, 17 drones over the Kursk region, another 30 drones over the Smolensk region, also 7 drones over the Volgograd region, 6 drones over the Oryol region. Also, drones were intercepted over the Rostov region and Crimea. 3 drones were intercepted over the Belgorod and Astrakhan regions, over the Ryazan region, and 1 drone was intercepted over the Moscow region. Also, the TASS news agency is reporting that Russian air forces liberated 2 more settlements, one in Sumy region and another in the Kharkov region. So the Russian air forces have liberated 2 settlements, Novo-Nikolaevka in the Sumy region and Dolgenki in the Kharkov region. Let me show you on the map, dear friends, these areas. In the Sumy region, well, buffer zone is becoming bigger and bigger, almost, literally on a daily basis. And let me see what was the name. Novo-Nikolaevka. So Novo-Nikolaevka, where is that settlement, by the way? Novo-Nikolaevka, this is the settlement, by the way, that is under full Russian control now. Unfortunately, there is no icon there. This maps administration have to improve its work. And another settlement that is in the Kharkov region is this one, Dolginka, and this area is also under full Russian control. It seems like Russian troops are further intensifying military operations on the northern side of Kupiansk, and I guess soon we will see Kupiansk being either fully or at least partially encircled. That's the most likely strategy that Russian troops have in this direction. Although I'm no military expert, so obviously it is difficult to say. Let's see how the situation develops. But Russian troops improving their positions all along the front line, on literally on daily basis, and in no circumstances Kyiv regime, in my personal opinion, will be able to regain initiative on any of their directions. Also, dear friends, let me share with you this information that yesterday Russian president, before opening of the before participating directly in St. Petersburg's economical forum, had a large press conference in which journalists were participating from all over the world. And let me give you some key statements of Russian president on Ukrainian conflict. For example, Putin reiterated that Russia's military involvement in Ukraine was triggered by the West's refusal to acknowledge Moscow's legitimate security concerns and failure to compel Kiev to uphold the past agreements and protect the Russian-speaking population in Donbass. 100% correct, by the way. Nothing to add, right? The Russian president expressed a willingness to resume peace talks, but insisted that any agreement must be signed by the legitimate Ukrainian government, a direct jab at Vladimir Zelensky, whose presidential term expired more than a year ago. He noted that peace proposals developed during the 2022 Istanbul talks, later derailed by Ukraine's Western backers, who sought to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia, could still serve as a framework. That initial agreement that was reached by sides in 2022, by the way, could still serve as a framework, but only if new realities are taken into account. And we have a quote from Putin here: "As I warned, the situation is going to get worse." So it got worse for them, for the Ukrainian side. Now we are not talking about Donetsk and Lugansk, but about 2 more subjects of the Russian Federation, 2 more regions of the Russian Federation, and Crimea, of course. Let's discuss this, Putin said, and dear friends, If, as I said many times before, if Kyiv regime will not accept Russian offer now, then give it another 3 to 5 months, and there will be another 3, 4 more regions, and eventually, if you're interested in my opinion, I think Russia will have no option but to go all the way up to borders of the Western Ukraine, and Western Ukraine eventually, most likely, will be claimed by its Western neighbors, Poland, Hungary, and Romania. Situation is moving in that direction because seems like globalists will continue to prolong this conflict in their dream to achieve a strategic defeat of Russia until they can mobilize anybody in Kyiv-controlled territory and throw into tranches, right? And there's still, by the way, millions of people in Kyiv-controlled territory, like up to 20 million potentially. So therefore, it is becoming obvious that most likely than not, Russia will just have no option but to further intensify special military operation and liberate all of territory of this former Soviet Republic up to borders of the Western Ukraine. Western Ukraine is a different situation, different story. It was part of other countries, right? And let those other countries deal with it. I think that would be correct way to go forward. We will find out. Let's see. Also, Russian president spoke about NATO rearmament and said, asked about NATO's growing military budgets and rearmament drive, Putin bluntly dismissed the idea that Russia poses a threat to the US-led military bloc as nonsense. He argued that Russia is fully capable of defending itself and continues to modernize its armed forces with their far lower budgets. Western claims that Russia may attack NATO countries, he said, are their deliberate fabrication designed to manipulate public opinion and conceal domestic failures. And this is true, by the way. I was saying very same stuff for how long now, right? He accused Western leaders of using the Russia scarecrow to justify inflated defense spending and likened their rhetoric of Nazi-era propaganda, citing Joseph Goebbels' dictum, the more monstrous the lie, the more likely people are to believe it. And unfortunately, this is true. And take a look at the societies in the West, by the way. They've been zombified. Majority of the societies in the Western world being zombified. And I guess they really believe that we here in Russia are dreaming about attacking countries left and right. Like if we have nothing to do, nothing else to do, which is crazy, isn't it? All we want is to be left alone, by the way, so that we will just live our lives in peace, right? That's all. It was a NATO that was endangering us. We did not move our military infrastructure closer to Berlin or Paris or London, right? They moved their military infrastructure closer to us. But yet again, propaganda, unfortunately, is working, right? And people in the West being zombified. Very many people, majority. And they probably truly believe that, we are literally dreaming about attacking, I don't know, Germany, France, or Italy, Denmark, UK, and so on, which is crazy, man. Putin warned that this kind of military posturing only escalates global tensions while diverting resources from social and economic development. He cited Germany's economic stagnation and their decline of energy-intensive industries as a self-inflicted consequences of its decision to decouple from Russian energy. And this is also true and factual, by the way. Everything that Putin says can be checked, by the way. And I was saying very same stuff I don't know how long now. It seems like since forever. Also, Russian president spoke about Berlin's attempts, basically, actions to derail relations with Moscow, the Russian leader voiced a stronger skepticism about Germany's potential role as a peace broker in the Ukraine conflict, asserting that Berlin has lost its neutrality. He pointed to the presence of destroyed German Leopard tanks on the internationally recognized territory of the Russia as proof that Germany is no longer a mere supporter but has become a co-combatant. Berlin's potential supply of Taurus missiles to Kiev, he warned, would not shift their military balance, but would completely destroy any remaining trust. Well, is there any trust still there? I don't think so. But Putin being generous, I guess, and very diplomatic. He said this, but I don't think he trusts even slightly anybody in the current leadership of Germany. I don't think so. Responding to remarks by newly appointed Chancellor Friedrich Merz about being open to dialogue, Putin said Moscow was not the one to break off communication with Berlin and suggested Merz was welcome to call if he was serious. He further accused Berlin of sabotaging its own economy by cutting energy ties with Russia. Volkswagen is dying. Porsche is dying. For what? Putin asked her rhetorically, questioning the logic behind Germany's economic decisions and mocking what he described as ideological stubbornness. Yet again, correct. What I can say, by the way. Russian president also spoke about Trump. So asked about US President Donald Trump's claims that the Ukraine conflict would never have happened under his leadership, Putin responded that Trump is probably right. He praised Trump's transactional approach to the politics, noting that as a businessman, he can count the costs and understands the economic consequences of international decisions. This, Putin said, makes him more pragmatic than the previous administration. And yet again, he was very generous in diplomacy, by the way. I mean, I would definitely not be this nice or polite towards Trump or anybody from the collective West leadership, for that matter. But yet again, Putin time and again demonstrates top level of diplomacy, top level of politics, because he's one of the very few heavyweights that this world has right now in a geopolitical arena, right? Putin expressed openness to further contact and future meetings with Trump, provided they are well prepared and result in positive outcomes. The track is well chosen, he said, referencing several phone conversations. We have a great respect for his intention to restore relations with Russia in many areas, both in the field of security and economic activity, said the Russian president, who also spoke about Iran-Israeli conflict. Obviously, Putin stressed that the Russia firmly opposes any further escalation between Iran and Israel, asked what Moscow would do in the event of the assassination of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. Putin refused to even entertain the notion, calling it a scenario I won't even discuss. Putin added that Moscow has not been asked to intervene militarily in the conflict and sees no reason to alter its current stance. While Russia previously delivered air defense systems to Iran, he said Tehran has shown little interest in broader cooperation. And I remind you on that, dear friends, that a couple of days ago, Russian philosopher and public figure Dugin stated that during the work between Russian and Iranian experts on bilateral strategic partnership agreement, Russia was proposing military alliance to Iran, and Tehran refused. And if correct, by the way, if sources of Dugin are correct, and that's exactly what happened, then we now all understand that that was Huge mistake on part of Iranian political leadership that to refuse a military alliance with Russia. Anyways, instead, Putin advocated for mutual security guarantees to protect both Iran's right to peaceful nuclear technology and Israel's right to security. He said Moscow has put forward several compromise frameworks to all stakeholders, including the US, Israel, and Iran, adding that he holds out hope that diplomacy will prevail. And, well, let's hope diplomacy will prevail because, as I already said, by the way, only Western ruling class, globalists, neocons, and Zionists and their assets in Israel, Israeli government want a bloody regional war in the Middle East. Rest of the world don't want it. Rest of the world wants to see peace in the Middle East and everywhere else. And therefore, let's hope diplomacy will prevail, and let's hope Moscow and Beijing and other capitals from BRICS, let's say, will manage to force basically collective West to back down, because they have to be forced at this point, I guess. Diplomatically, I'm talking about, but if necessary, to prove the point, maybe, as I already said, Russia, China, other BRICS member states will send even India, by the way, that has good ties with Israel, but I don't think India wants a regional war in the Middle East, so they might join. Maybe Russia, China, India, other BRICS member states, Brazil, South Africa will send their navies, by the way, into Indian Ocean and the Persian Gulf to make sure that Western elites, collective Western, will back down, and they would not be able to provoke war in a region between the neighboring countries. That will eventually, obviously, will transform into sectarian violence and their ethnic hatred and ethnic violence. Let's continue with some other news. And well, yesterday on my Telegram and Twitter X page, I shared this information too, that NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stated that Alliance will classify data on military aid to Ukraine, and well, a good try, one may say, ironically. Obviously, this will be done to somewhat hide transfers of long-range weapon systems to formally to Kiev regime. In reality, it's NATO that operates with these long-range systems, being British Storm Shadow cruise missiles, French Scalp PG cruise missiles, US ATACMS tactical missiles, or potentially German Taurus long-range cruise missiles, right? And Russian president was very clear on the topic of potential deployment of Taurus missiles. He said that, well, that would not change much on the battlefield. That would not turn the tide, obviously, but that will be final blow to Russia-German relationships, for sure. And no matter what German intelligence, militaries, and political class, what kind of explanations they can come up, that this was not German Taurus, this was a Ukrainian builder missile or something like that, it would not work. Russia knows perfectly well what is done by whom, when, and why. And if Germany has intelligence services, then Russia has also, and a much more capable one, much more advanced and sophisticated one than Germany will ever have, right? Let's be clear on that too. So it is what it is. RT is also reporting that, well, as Russian president pointed out, by the way, during the press conference with journalists from all over the world yesterday, his aide and his envoy, Kirill Dmitriev, the CEO of Russian Direct Investment Fund, also stated that Brussels making EU as uncompetitive as possible. And this is true, by the way. This is absolutely true. Well, people in Europe, citizens of EU member states, I don't know if they are even capable of to wake up at this point, I mean majority, but if they are, then they should, until there is anything left from economies there, right? Because Brussels, extremely ideologized and inadequate Brussels, is clearly destroying European economies for their sick geopolitical agenda, whatever that agenda is. And this is true, by the way, and this is just factual, right? And I will end the news segment of this update, dear friends, on this information that India and Canada vote to reset ties after years of diplomatic spats. So India and Canada have agreed to reset ties after years of tensions, which culminated in the mutual expulsion of their top diplomats in 2024. Good news, I will say. It was a huge mistake on part of Ottawa to escalate with New Delhi, right? And if new Prime Minister of Canada is realizing that and wants to rebuild relationships, then okay, that's something of positive, and everyone should welcome. So good news, at least some good news, by the way, isn't it? When it comes to geopolitical stuff and international relationships.
Hello everyone, I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.